Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Surprise Jab Podcast. I'm your host, Zachary Ruger, surprising you with new topics, new information every single week, and jabbing you with your daily dose of MMA information. And man, do we have a jam-packed episode today. I'm thrilled about today's episode. I got all dressed up. I took some time out of my day. Let's get into it. We are going to be previewing UFC Paris, which goes down this Saturday. September 2nd? Yeah, September 2nd already. Wow, we're already in September. That is crazy. I feel like August just started. I just got back down to college, but we're already getting September rolling, so let's go. We're going to be ranking Phase 2 of the MCU. We're doing our MCU rankings of sorts. We ranked Phase 1 last week. Now we're going to rank the Phase 2 movies this episode. We're also going to be talking about some new fights, some new UFC news in general. Recapping Dana White's Contender series, the 60th episode, the 4th episode of this season. Went down Tuesday, and we're going to talk about all sorts of things on today's episode. Happy to be getting into it. I am recently decided I'm going to try and reach out to some sponsors, maybe try and get some sponsorship for this podcast. Going to try and revamp a bit. I need to work on my marketing of sorts. Since I don't film, since I have nowhere to film myself, I don't really know how I can post videos showing myself speaking and such. This is definitely more of just an audio-only podcast at the moment, but if I can find a way to film myself of sorts, it would be very awesome for the podcast. But let's not waste any time. Let's get into everything. I hope everyone's having an amazing day. It was an amazing week for everyone. Tomorrow's Friday. Super hype about that. And yeah, let's get all into everything. So kicking off, we do have some new fight announcements on the lesser side. Yasmin Lucindo, the 20-year-old, I believe, Mexican fighter. She recently just fought August 15th, is already back on September 16th at the new UFC Noche event at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. She'll be taking on Josephine Knudsen. She is from the 3rd episode of this season of the Contender series. Did not get a contract, but the UFC called her back and asked if she could step in on short notice, and she agreed. Happy to see both of them back fighting. Yasmin is an absolute savage. It's crazy. She's my age. And as for Josephine, she looked so good on the Contender series. I figured she would get a contract. She didn't. Happy the UFC re-signed her. In bigger news, November 18th at the UFC Apex, it'll be UFC Vegas 82. Brendan Allen will be taking on Paul Craig in the main event for the middleweight division. Brendan Allen currently ranked I believe he's number 10 at the moment. Yes, Brendan Allen's the number 10 middleweight in the world. Paul Craig, number 13. That'll be going down at the UFC Apex. Happy to see both of those guys fight. Brendan Allen will put on his 5-fight win streak on the line against Paul Craig, who recently debuted in the middleweight division not too long ago. That is an absolute amazing fight. If I could give an early prediction, I got to ride with Brendan Allen. He has just looked unstoppable as of late. And as good as Paul Craig looked against Andre Muniz, he certainly didn't put on a perfect performance. And when I saw Andre Muniz fight Brendan Allen in his previous fight, Brendan Allen absolutely outclassed him. So I'll be riding with Brendan Allen for that fight. And my most exciting news, I've just been waiting to talk about this on the podcast. The UFC is apparently returning to Minneapolis, Minnesota, December 2nd at the Target Center. It has apparently been leaked on this past episode of the Contender series, which we're going to talk about in a second. Thomas Peterson, who is from Farmington, Minnesota, did get a win. He then mentioned in his post-fight interview that after he had talked with Dana, he said that basically he's heard there's going to be an event in the Twin Cities and he'd love to be on it, and that only means it's going down in Minneapolis. I'm so excited. I will without doubt. And even on the ESPN website, it says what's the word I'm trying to think of? It's not official. It's unofficial right now, but it's rumored. That's the word. It's rumored that it'll be going down in December 2nd, which is going to be a fight night. I don't know who will be main eventing, but nonetheless, I will be getting tickets unless it's a woman main event. I'm sorry. If it's a bad woman main event, I will not go. But if it's anything other than that, I will definitely be buying some tickets. I'm going to have to DoorDash a bunch. I'm going to have to get my side hustles going up, man. I'm going to need to make some money to actually afford a ticket. I could be looking at a $200 to $500 ticket Or do we just ball out and buy the VIP package? I don't know, but I was so excited when I heard that. I literally called my mom at like 10 at night. I was like, Mom, you'll never guess what? The UFC's back. And she's like, oh, really? That's lovely. Like, just not that enthusiastic. But actually, you know what? She was pretty hype about it as much as I was. So it's always good to hear that stuff, man. The last UFC event in Minnesota was Francis Ngannou versus Junior Dos Santos in a fight night. That was back in June of 2019, so long ago. It's crazy where both those fighters went and just where the UFCs went in general. But man, I'm so happy the UFC will be returning. And oh man, I just can't get over it. I'm ecstatic. I will without doubt be going. Maybe we can do a meet and greet. This will be great for the podcast. Maybe I should print some merch and to get the brand out there. Who knows? But very happy that fight is going back. That fight's going back. That we're coming back to my favorite state, Minnesota. All right. Dana White's Contender Series, episode 60. Let's get into it. 5 fights went down. I took notes during every single fight. I was very prepared. I might do this Saturday. I was able to watch every single fight, actually be in tune with it. So let's dive in. So we kicked off the card in the lightweight division as Dylan Salvador took on Balaji Oki. And I thought Dylan Salvador was going to get it done, but man, Balaji Oki won me over and won the fight. Starts off, Oki is hitting him pretty hard. I mean, you're visibly seeing his shots landing more. It's pretty competitive. All of a sudden, Balaji drops him with just out of nowhere, drops him down. And basically a blitz attack is all I can describe, which is just he's just going forward with punches. Dylan goes down. I think it was actually with a body shot up against the cage during his like little blitz running attack at him with his punches that dropped him at the 2-minute 46-second mark of round number 1, officially a TKO. Balaji improves to 8-1. And I predicted he would get a contract, and he did get a contract. Very excited. Balaji, I believe, is from Belgium, so very nice to see a European fighter getting another contract. And man, he was super humble. He was super appreciative of getting the contract, and he fights good. And 8-1, lightweight. How old is Balaji? I can't recall. I believe he's 28, 27. Happy to have him in the UFC. I don't know what'll be next for him at lightweight, but maybe someone like Uros Medic or someone. I don't know. I don't want to throw some of these guys straight to the wolves, but man, some of them are just too good not to. Moving on to name we just mentioned in the heavyweight division, Thomas Peterson took on Chandler Cole. Round 1 starts out good grappling. Peterson landed a single leg, and it was single leg takedown. It was clear to see from round 1 that this was going to be a grappling fest from Thomas Peterson. Good trip takedown 2 in round number 1. Entered his half guard very well. And I honestly scored round 1 at 10-8 in favor of Thomas Peterson. He had 3 minutes 55 seconds of control time. Total strikes 57-12 as he goes 2 for 2 on takedowns. Some good ground and pound, some very good ground and pound. Round 2 starts off, Thomas Peterson, another good single leg takedown. 3 for 3 officially for the fight. I mean, Chandler Cole had no answer for him at all. I mean, he moves right into, it was like a crucifix, but it was like side control of sorts, and he locks up a Kimura in round 2. Actually, it goes down as a key lock. They announced it as a Kimura. It was he basically was about to break his arm off, and he gets the victory. And as I predicted, he gets the contract. I had a feeling he would get the contract, and man, super good. He improves. I know he's on a 3-fight winning streak now, but he improves to 8-1. Thomas the Pearson train, and there's a funny moment. The announcer, who was the announcer? I can't recall. He announced him as Thomas Jefferson. Super funny. And my roommate's walking in to speak to me. And he has left. Always good times seeing Mr. Seth. But yes, Thomas gets the contract, and I'm very happy to see him in the UFC. I love seeing Minnesota fighters in the UFC. It's very rare you see any. I mean, pretty much when you think of Minnesota fighters, you think of Brock Lesnar. So let's move on to our third fight, because this one was interesting, as Timothy Kwamba took on Mateo Vogel. I predicted Mateo Vogel to win, and this fight was very interesting. So Starting off, Kwamba landing some hard shots in the first minute of the round. I actually thought Vogel was going to go down. I was getting super nervous, but Vogel was able to sort of like recover of sorts. He was able to defend a takedown twice. Vogel then sort of dropped him, not really, more of a slip. Did not consider it an actual knockdown. Very good first round. I did score it for Timothy Kwamba. Just let you know that Mateo Vogel did outland him in round one, defended his takedowns, but just from how strong Kwamba started, I think that's what gave him the round. Round two kicks off. It was a very close edge in striking, lots of leg kicks, and I believe the leg kicks won Mateo Vogel round number 2. Okay? We get into round number 3. A slam takedown for Vogel in the third. He had control until the end. 2 minutes and 50 seconds of control time in round number 3. So it was just basically just Vogel with control. Okay? I had it 2 rounds to 1 for Mateo Vogel. It's not even a split decision. All 3 judges see it 29-28 for Mateo Vogel. I just don't know how they scored it for him. It was a close fight, but I disagreed. I did not think that he would get a contract, and he did not get a contract. Dana White said he did not see the killer instinct tonight, and I didn't think he won the fight. I thought Mateo Vogel won the fight. That was super irritating to me, but Timothy Kwamba will improve to 7-1, but will not be getting a UFC contract. It's a shame Mateo Vogel didn't get a contract. I hope they give him another shot. But as for Kwamba, I did not think he won the fight, so it was very troubling for me, but he didn't get a contract, so that did make me happy. Sorry to say that. Moving into our co-main, if you want to call it that, just the 4th fight of the night, as Yusri Belgorai took on Marco Tulio. Oh man, Yusri, I thought he was good. He was not very good. So, Belgary, some excellent takedown defense in round number 1. He threw an excellent looking question mark kick that was very notable. He had some good scrambling on the ground. But Tulio took round 1. He managed to land 1 takedown, had almost 2 minutes of control time, and his shots were just landing more. So round 1 went to Marco, I would say, but it was very close because the judges did score a couple for each of them, but around a piece for each man. But I did think Tulio won round 1. Moving into round number 2. Belgary's mouthguard kept coming out. He lost at this round. Tulio was landing very good this round, much better than round number 1, and I had Tulio winning round number 2. Official strikes, 21 significant strikes for Tulio, 19 for Yusri. Of course, if anyone doesn't know, Yusri was the man who had fought Alex Pereira, had trained with him in Glover Teixeira. He had even fought Adesanya back in the kickboxing days. So this guy was very well known in the kickboxing community. But we enter round 3, and we realize that Tulio has no grappling. He loses his mouthguard in round number 3. Tulio was going for the finish. He landed a trip takedown on him. He went to half guard. He went to side control. He put him in a crucifix. Tulio absolutely dominated round 3. I'd even thrown out a 10-8, but I did score 10-9. Significant strikes, 17-3 in favor of Tulio. Total strikes, 40-7. 1 for 2 on takedowns for 4 minutes of control time. Belgary offered nothing in this fight. However, I did think, because Tulio was not able to get the finish, looked kind of sloppy, he would not get the contract. And what do you know? I was correct. Dana does not give him the contract. Pretty much said what I said, and just said, he has plenty of middleweights. If you're not, he wants you to come and fight with the intention to get a contract. And so there's something to be said that the 3 fighters that got finishes tonight all got contracts, and the 2 that went the distance did not. But I don't know. I don't really want to see Yusri again. He put on a very poor performance. And as for Marco Tulio, he looked good, but if he'd have finished the fight, he'd have done much better. Let's get into the most exciting and best fight of the night as Mitch Ramirez took on Carlos Prates. Carlos, the one with so much experience. He was coming into this 16-6 at 20 years old. 30 years old. Was super excited for him. As for Mitch, a bit younger. Actually, no, he was actually 31, but he was 7-0. And we get going. So round 1 kicks off. Ramirez lands a slam takedown after eating some big leg kicks from Carlos Prates. Prates was able to scramble out and was landing some more hard hits. I thought he was going to put him away with his straights and his jabs. He was even throwing a couple overhands. But then Ramirez was even landing, but it looked like Prates was landing much harder. It was evident from the beginning that the power was with Prates. We advance into round number 2. Crazy shots from Prates. I mean, he is landing some knees to the body. It was absolutely painful, I saw. And then we enter round 2. Okay, so Prates clearly won round 2. Mitch landed a takedown, but once it was on the feet, it was evident Prates had much more experience. And then we entered round number 2, and Prates hit him with a straight punch a minute 14 seconds in. And Ramirez stumbled down and just basically, he didn't get knocked out, but like it was over. I mean, he hit him with a punch, dropped him down. He was just laying there. Prates called it off himself, didn't even land a follow-up punch. That was it. Carlos Prates gets the best finish of the night and gets your third and final contract. And Dana White compared him to a young Anderson Silva. You cannot get a better comparison than that unless you get a John Jones comparison. I mean, Carlos Prates, he's in the welterweight division. He improves to 17-6. Sucks for Mitch Ramirez. He got cut from the Ultimate Fighter this past season and just lost his undefeated record. But I mean, Carlos Prates, super entertaining. I want to see him in the UFC. And Dana White even said he's one of the guys you can throw right into the mix and he'll do good. Carlos Prates, I am excited to see you. So yes, Carlos Prates, Thomas Jefferson Peterson, and Bolaji Oki all get contracts. Super excited to see all those guys fight in the UFC, a new lightweight, a new heavyweight, and a new welterweight. Man, I mean, I would honestly say, do we have any international cards coming up? If we get Carlos Prates on that Sao Paulo card in November, that would be very good. I would love to see him in front of a full packed crowd. That's for certain. And that's Dana White's Contender Series for you. That's your recap. It was another good episode. Didn't go 5 for 5 on fights, though. Went 3 out of 5 on my picks and out of how entertaining they were. But hey, that's how it goes, man. That's how it goes. Let's move on to the UFC rankings. They actually did update this past Tuesday, so I figured we should go over some of the updates following what happened this past weekend, guys. Oh, UFC Singapore. Yes, moving to the heavyweight division, Zhang Weili is now tied for the number 1 pound-for-pound spot with Alexa Grasso actually listed as the number 1. I think the UFC finally realized that, hey, Zhang Weili looks super impressive against Amanda Lemos at UFC 292. Let's bump her up. So she's tied with Alexa Grasso for the number 1 spot. Erin Blanchfield passes Carla Esparza to move to the number 6 spot in the women's pound-for-pound as she awaits a title shot in the future. Most likely. I mean, you do have to think that, depending on how Manon Fiorot does against Rose Namajunas this weekend at UFC Paris, she could potentially jump the line. We'll see. And Erin Blanchfield passes Manon, speaking of that, in the women's flyweight rankings, moving from the number 3 spot to the number 2 spot, only trailing Valentina Shevchenko. No updates in the lightweight, welterweight, middleweight, light heavyweight division. Nothing there. Our second to last update was Giga Chikadze moves up to the number 8 spot in the men's featherweight division. Movsar Evlov moving up to the number 9 spot, and the Korean Zombie drops to the number 10 spot in the UFC featherweight division. I assume he'll be bumped from the rankings come next update, but as of right now, he is listed at number 10. Following his big win, Giga Chikadze, I honestly feel him versus Arnold Allen. I really like that Arnold Allen fight. I'd even do a Brian Ortega fight. And as for Movsar Evlov, I'd love to see Movsar against Calvin Kattar, Arnold Allen, Brian Ortega, Jair Rodriguez, any of those guys. Just one more farewell to the Korean Zombie. Amazing stuff from him. Loved watching his final fight. That UFC Singapore main event was super good. It'll definitely, as of now, it's in my top 10 for Fight Night's main events of the year. Let's round out with the men's pound for pound, which updated. Jiri Prochazka drops to the number 13 spot. He is a former light heavyweight champion who gave up the belt due to injury. He should be returning this December against the number 12 ranked pound for pound fighter who dropped a spot, Alex Pereira. And at number 11, Max Holloway jumps 2 spots. There was a time I was thinking after he lost to Volk, why is Max still in the pound for pound rankings? And he reminded me this past weekend that he deserves to be in it. Aljamain Sterling drops to the number 10 spot, and Alexander Pantoja, your current flyweight champion, moves up to the number 9 spot. I'm hearing rumblings that he could potentially be taking on the number 4 ranked Brandon Royval for the belt in December. December's shaping up to be pretty good. I'm sensing we're not getting McGregor and Chandler. It could be looking as like a light heavyweight belt, flyweight belt, maybe a bantamweight belt. I don't know. We'll see when December comes, but I did hear that we might do 2 pay-per-views in December. December's looking good, especially if we're starting with a Minnesota card. I've also was hearing that the UFC wants to go to Miami. They want to go to Toronto in January. They want to go to Houston, Chicago. They're finally branching back out. You love to see it. But let's take a break from UFC and let's move into our surprise topic of episode 18. Wow, we already have 18 episodes down. Ranking the MCU, that's right. We are on phase 2 this week. We ranked phase 1 last week, of course. The Avengers was my number 1 ranked movie of phase 1. But phase 2, did it top phase 1? I don't know. The Guardians of the Galaxy and Captain America Winter Soldier and Ant-Man, I think, was better than some movies. But Iron Man and the Avengers and the first Captain America were better than the bottom 3 of MCU Phase 2. So for anyone that doesn't know, the Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 2 went from May 2013 to July 2015. It started off with Thor the Dark World. No, it started off with Iron Man 3 and ended with, was it Ant-Man? I think it was Ant-Man. Yeah, I think it went from Iron Man 3 to Ant-Man, if I'm thinking correctly in my chronologicalness of it. I actually heard in October the MCU is dropping an official book or like video or something that details their chronology. What word am I thinking of, guys? Their chronological order. I think that's what I was thinking of. But man, everything's been messing me up. MCU's been kind of wacky of late. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 has been the best thing I've seen in a while. I do not want to see The Marvels. I've heard it's the shortest MCU movie, thank goodness. I did not watch Secret Invasion, but I did see that apparently Khaleesi, what's her name? Daenerys Targaryen, that actress who was in Secret Invasion. I can't think of her name for some reason. Clark? Is it Emilia Clarke? I don't know. I think that's her name. That she's the most powerful MCU hero at the moment, which makes no sense since I know nothing about the show. Gosh, I'll have to get around to Secret Invasion at some point. At some point, I'll get around to Secret Invasion. But anyways, let's get into MCU Phase 2. There were 6 movies. I mean, I'm excited to rank Phase 3 next episode. But Phase 2, let's dive in with my number 6 movie. It's a lot of people's worst movie of all time in the MCU. Drum roll, please. Thor the Dark World. Yes, Thor the Dark World is my bottom of Phase 2. And I'll say this movie is not as unbearable to watch, but just after you watch all of them, you kind of go, yeah, Thor the Dark World is not the best. Came out in 2013. It's very similar to the first in the tone of it, if you were to compare the third and fourth to be in the same tone of the Taika Waititi's goofiness. But it's also, I don't think it's as good as the first Thor. I think it is a drop-off of sorts. They certainly shrink Asgard, the villain. Gosh, who even was the villain in the first Thor? The first 2 Thors have some really bad villains. Those dark elves, they were not menacing. There were no stakes at all. And weren't they in London for the final battle? I have no idea. A lot more of Jane Goodall, a lot more of Natalie Portman. Love to see her as an actress. But as the character, I mean, it was kind of like, oh, she's the center role. She has a Infinity Stone in her called the Aether. And the Aether was super confusing at first. Now looking back on it, it's not. But at the time, it was super confusing. Everything with Loki was good. Tom Hiddleston, loved seeing him. His character arc in this film continued to improve. But the villains did suck. I mean, it was just, they weren't menacing. They hadn't really no goal other than to get this Aether and make the world dark. I wasn't really rocking with it. But it did introduce another Infinity Stone, and the post-credit scene showed the stone being brought to the Collector. And the next time that would be shown again would be in Avengers Infinity War. But yeah, Thor the Dark World. I honestly am torn between this and Thor Love and Thunder for the worst Thor. But I do think this is unfortunately the worst Thor. Unfortunate, but they all can't be super good. I do think it's better than the Incredible Hulk, though. Personally, I think it's better than the Incredible Hulk. Moving on to my number 5 movie of MCU Phase number 2, Iron Man 3 came out in 2013, post Avengers. I actually like this movie. I rewatched it a bit ago. I didn't think it was as bad as I thought it was. I do think it's better than Iron Man 2. Definitely not better than Iron Man 1. But it was an all right movie. It was more Tony Stark than Iron Man. If you get the gist, it was more of the hero without the abilities than with the abilities. I would compare it to the first Thor of sorts. Wow, that's a tongue twister. He kind of finds his way. He has a relationship with the kid. He doesn't have a suit for a lot of it. But the villains are super weird. They're like superhumans that just like blow up, made of like fire. I don't even know. Super weird. But yes, I can't even think of who the villain was. Justin Hammer? That wasn't it, was it? I can't remember. It was one of those, Tony Stark spurned him years ago. He's now the villain. They've done that with essentially every single Tony Stark villain. I kid you not. Happy to rewatch that movie, especially after Iron Man did die in Avengers Endgame. But yeah, it's the number 5 movie for me on my MCU Phase 2 rankings. Moving into my number 4 movie, Avengers Age of Ultron. That is right, the second Avengers movie. Honestly, it was super hype at the time. The trailer, that was one of the best trailers because you were like, whoa, Avengers Age of Ultron, what is this? That is the worst Avengers out of the 4 current Avengers. It's not saying too much. I don't think it's that bad. I think there is a lot of good. I just think when you put it up against other movies, it definitely is not the best. It's a very good villain. It's a shame that James Spader was wasted in just this movie. I wish they wouldn't have killed Ultron. I wish he would have escaped, sort of like what happened in Wakanda 2. Wakanda Forever, Black Panther 2 is what I'm thinking of with Namor. But, man, loved seeing James Spader, loved Ultron, very good villain. It introduced Wanda Maximoff and Quicksilver. It also killed off Quicksilver quicker than he was introduced. Very good Thanos tease in the post-credits scene, showing him getting the Infinity Gauntlet. Loved that. It was a very long final battle, though, and I could tell that with this final battle scene of the movie, they were trying to upstage the first, the Bell in New York. And with this one, it's just the stakes did not feel as high. It's like, okay, if this city drops down to the ground, it'll blow up the earth. But it felt just like a city will get destroyed. And that's what happened. Meanwhile, with the Battle of New York, it's like, the world's going to get taken over. But hey, who am I to say? We also saw Captain America kind of lift the hammer. We saw a bit of Hulk and Black Widow's relationship. We saw some more Hawkeye. Always love to see it. And we saw the rift start to appear between Captain America and Iron Man, which would lead into Civil War. But yes, Avengers Age of Ultron falls at my number 4 spot on my MCU Phase 2 rankings. I don't know if that's a popular or unpopular opinion. I don't really know. Moving into my top 3. I mean, it's only out of 6, but still, top 50%. My number 3 choice, Ant-Man. That's right, it came out in 2015. I thought it was a great introduction to Paul Rudd's Ant-Man, and I love Paul Rudd. He is just such a great actor. He always makes me laugh. I do think it's hard to take him serious as a villain at times because he's such a likable guy. He just has such like a likable face, personality. I love it. I think it's the best in the Ant-Man trilogy. I actually think Ant-Man's de-progressed in progress, but I think that Paul Rudd is just so much fun. You just can't help but enjoy it. I do like seeing all the stuff with his mentor, Hank Pym. You get a bit of, who's the other Pym? Natalie Pym? I can't remember all their names. If it's not in front of me. I used to know all my MCU names, but I've kind of forgotten now. A decent villain, just a run-of-the-mill villain with, who is it? Yellow Jacket, Wasp, or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, very good movie. It's falling in my number 3 spot. And at one point, I had Ant-Man as like a top 10 MCU movie, but as I've adjusted my list, it probably falls in that 10 to 20 range. Falls at number 3 in the Phase 2 rankings, though, so good for Ant-Man. Moving in to the number 2 spot. I mean, there's only 2 movies left. I know a lot of people have this movie as their best MCU movie, but me personally, I'm a sucker for the number 1 movie I have on this list, so that's why it falls to the number 2 spot. But at number 2, the Russo brothers' debut in the MCU. It came out in 2014. Captain America Winter Soldier. Such a different vibe from the first Captain America. Definitely better than the first. I do actually think the Civil War is better than this, but Captain America Captain America Winter Soldier, a very good movie. It felt more real. It felt real compared to other MCU movies. It kind of gave me that spy espionage type feel to it. Trying to be like a detective of sorts, evade just this evil corporation, the shield that's been infiltrated. And I enjoyed seeing Bucky Barnes return. I enjoyed seeing Winter Soldier. He was kind of menacing. A lot more Samuel Jackson. I mean, who doesn't love a little Nick Fury in the MCU? And Chris Evans is just so good. And you get more Natasha. You get them like buddy-buddy relationship. But at the same time, they had like this romance going on the whole film. And then just after this film, they don't even mention it again. There's just nothing going there. It's kind of weird. But I did enjoy Captain America Winter Soldier. It is number 2 for me. And honestly, until recently, it wasn't even in my top 10 MCU movies. But I do know one of my buddies, he has it as like his number 1 of all time, or like top 3. Me personally, I don't. Moving in to the number 1 spot for MCU, Phase 2 movies. Oh man, I could rewatch all these movies over and over and over again. Guardians of the Galaxy, my number 1 MCU Phase 2 movie, also in my top 10 MCU movies. It came out in 2014. James Gunn directed, and it kicked off the best trilogy, in my opinion, of the MCU. It is just funny. It gave off a whole different vibe compared to all the other movies before it. A great origin story for this group, for all the characters too. And who doesn't love Chris Pratt? I mean, who doesn't love Zoe Saldana? Who doesn't love Bradley Cooper and Vin Diesel as animated characters? Who doesn't love Dave Bautista? Just an amazing cast too. I think I see a lot of people hate on Ronan as a villain. I honestly don't mind him as a villain. I kind of like him. I think everything fits together. But this is one of those movies when it first came out. I don't know if I saw it in theaters. I think I saw it on DVD. But I didn't know it was even a part of the MCU. I didn't know the MCU was even a thing. I mean, this was just a random group being introduced. And it did something which the Eternals definitely didn't do. And that is captivate the audience. It was a perfect length, perfect humor, perfect final battle. I mean, this movie is amazing. I honestly think every Guardians of the Galaxy movie is like a 9 out of 10, and they actually improve. I mean, I think they're all the same level of just amazingness. But hey, that's just me. I know a lot of people don't like the second one, so it'll be interesting to see where the second one lands on my Phase 3 rankings. But Guardians of the Galaxy, my number 1 Phase 2 movie. Man, I might go rewatch it tonight. Who knows? So yeah, my rankings officially: number 6, Thor: The Dark World; number 5, Iron Man 3; number 4, Avengers: Age of Ultron; number 3, Ant-Man, or number 4 was Avengers: Age of Ultron; number 3, Ant-Man; number 2, Captain America: The Winter Soldier; and number 1, Guardians of the Galaxy. Man, the MCU early phases, it's just crazy. It used to be so easy to keep track of them. I mean, through the first 2 phases, we have 12 movies, and then in like Phase 3, we have freaking like 10 movies. It upgraded so much, man. I'm excited to do Phase 3, honestly. Phase 4 will be interesting, and then I don't even know about Phase 5. Maybe we do a full ranking of all 32 movies. Who knows if we're feeling that adventurous. We'll see. I mean, gosh, when's the Marvels come out? November, I think that movie's coming out. I don't know if I want to see it. I just don't know about it. But I'll tell you what I do want to see. And that is UFC Paris, ladies and gentlemen. That is right. We've already gotten to it. I'm cruising through all my information because I'm just so excited to talk about UFC Paris. It's a good one. We got a lot of Paris fighters. It's going down at 11:30 Central, 11:30 a.m. Central Time prelims, 2 o'clock Central main card. So I'm going to take a quick little intermission, which will be no time for you guys, and I'll be back with your UFC Paris preview. And we are back, and we are ecstatic. Let's dive in. We've had some fight cancellations. I don't even know how many we have now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 fights on this card. which means I think we should be able to fit them all in time. I mean, sometimes they go over for the prelims, which always messes me up because they'll be like, oh, this fight should be on the main card now, and I didn't make a pick. But yes, it is a 6-fight main card, which means it's only a 5-fight prelim. Wow. I guess that's how it goes, but let's dive in. I mean, this is such a huge event. Cyril Gane main eventing the second ever event in Paris, France. That's right, last year in September, almost to the day, it was September 3rd, 2022. We had Cyril Gane versus Tai Tuivasa main event, and that was just an amazing event. I was in my apartment. I remember where I was. I was on my couch, and I watched Cyril Gane versus Tai Tuivasa, which was one of my favorite fights of 2022. So without doubt, let's dive in. We kick off the night with a catchweight bout for the women as Zara Fern takes on Jacqueline Cavalcanti. They never make the names easy, do they? Zara Fern is 6-5. Jacqueline Cavalcanti is 5-1. Both 5'8", 2 inches in reach for Zara Fern. 72 inches to 70. This will be Jacqueline Cavalcanti's UFC debut. She is from Portugal on a 3-fight winning streak, 5-1 professionally with 3 KOs. She's only 26 years old, but she actually is French. She actually, pardon me, my notes overlapped. She is not French. She is Portuguese. It's her opponent, Zara Fern, who is actually French. She is sadly 0-3 in the UFC, been finished by Megan Anderson and Felicia Spencer, and lost earlier this year in January to Josiane Nunes. So this could be a make it or break it for Zara Fern, but she has been training with Hamzat Chimaev. Hopefully she can bounce back. I will say she is 40 years. She's 39 years old, so she is up there in age. Jacqueline is much younger, kicking off her career, and already has half the amount of fights as Zara has. I know we're in France, but I just cannot give this one to Zara, man. I got to go with Jacqueline Cavalcanti by knockout. Who knows if Zara can maybe get it done, but from all the stats, it's telling me she's old, hasn't won the UFC. We'll see how she does against Jacqueline Cavalcanti, but I don't really give her much of a chance. However, since it is France, I do hope she can win in front of her home crowd. But hey, we'll see. Hopefully it's not a boring fight to kick off the card. I'll tell you what fight should not be the second on the prelims. This should be on the main card. We go to bantamweight as Farhad Ferocious Basharat, that is, takes on Kledson K.R. Rodriguez in the men's bantamweight division. Farhad is 10-0. He is brother to Javid Basharat, another undefeated bantamweight. Kledson is 8-2. Farhad has 3 inches in height, 5'8" to 5'5", and a notable 4 inches in reach. I mean height and then reach, 71 inches to 67 inches, 4-inch advantage. He is 26 now, I believe. Kledson is 27 at the moment. Farhad is 1-0 in the UFC, coming off the Contender Series last year. Picked up a big win over Damon Blackshear earlier this year in March. And as we've seen, Damon Blackshear is a very tough competitor, so all credit to Farhad. I do believe he has a number of knockouts to his name, but he's taking on Kledson, who's coming off a big round 1 finish of Shannon Ross earlier this year. Got him out of there in 59 seconds. He came from the Contender Series in 2021, lost his debut to CJ Vergara, but now he's found himself to his winning ways. But I'll tell you, Farhad Basharat from his Contender Series fight and from his Damon Blackshear fight, I have seen nothing that should not make me want to pick him. So I will be picking Farhad Basharat without a doubt. I predict he'll go to 11-0. And man, I feel like Javid and Farhad Basharat can both be a dynamic duo of brothers in the UFC. Happy to see that fight, and I expect it to be better than the one to open the prelims. But man, Farhad is super talented. There's no reason he should be this low on the prelims. Moving into our next fight, women's bantamweight, as Nora Kernoli takes on Jocelyn Edwards. Nora making her UFC debut. Jocelyn's been here. She's done this, okay? Nora 6-1 professionally. Jocelyn 13-4. An inch in height for Jocelyn and 3 inches in reach as well for her. Nora is... How old is Nora? I believe she's 33. and Jocelyn is 28. Jocelyn is on a 3-fight winning streak, winning back-to-back split decisions. Her last loss came in 2021 to Jessica Rose Clark. And in the UFC, she is 4-2. All fights have gone the distance. As for Nora, she'll be making her UFC debut, and her only professional loss is actually to a woman opening the card, Jacqueline Cavalcante. How about that? That is Nora's only loss. She is also French. 5 KOs and a sub, so 100% finish rate. She has she's a Muay Thai style fighting. I mean, she is 33 years old, as I mentioned. 5 KOs, 1 sub. Wow, I'm going with Nora. She's 100% finish rate. I feel like she'll attack Jocelyn Edwards, just get on her, pressure her, and maybe even TKO her. I'm rocking with you, Nora. Okay, we're rocking with Jacqueline Cavalcanti, Farid Basharat, and Nora Cornell. Man, that should be good. I gotta pick some French fighters. Okay, I can't go against Zara and then not go against Nora. Moving into our 4th prelim fight of the evening, I should say this. Jacqueline and Nora are both stepping in on short notice. Just to let everyone know, those were not the originally planned fights. Just as this one is 2, as Angelusa takes on Rise McKee on short-term notice. Angelusa 9-3 in the UFC. Rise McKee 10-4-1. I believe he's 13-4-1 now, but we'll see if they update that. Rise has got 4 inches in. Actually, he's got 6 inches in height. Oh no, it's 4 inches in height on him. I clearly can't do math. 6'2" to 5'10". He's got 4 inches in reach too. 78 inches to 74. Rise is 27 at the moment. Birthday is September 10th. And as for Angelusa, he is a ripe 30 years old. Ange, the last Ninja Lusa. And Rise, Skeletor McKee. Rise McKee debuted in the UFC in 2020, got finished by Khamzat Chimaev. It's a shame he got fed to Khamzat Chimaev in his debut. He would then follow that up with a November 2020 loss to Alex Morono before being cut. Unfortunately, I don't think he should have been cut. I mean, he lost to, a guy who's co-main eventing a pay-per-view later this year. I mean, an undefeated Savage, Khamzat Chimaev. And Alex Morono is a very solid welterweight competitor. Rise is 3-0 after leaving the company, became a Cage Warriors champion. He is from Northern Ireland. 10 KOs and 3 subs to his name with 100% finish rate. And he's gotten all of his finishes since leaving the company, all knockouts. I'm really hoping he can bounce back here. He takes on Ange Lusa. I don't know who Ange was supposed to fight. I forgot. Ange did get his first UFC victory when he beat AJ Fletcher last August. For that, he had actually lost on the Contender Series to Jack Della Maddalena and lost his UFC debut to Munir Lazzez. I'll be riding with Rise McKee. I'm really hoping he can bounce back in this fight. He looked super good in Cage Warriors, and I just feel this is a redemption for him. You know, he gets cut, comes back 3 years later, wins in home turf. I mean, this is as close as to Ireland we're going to get at the moment, and if he can get a win here, man, put him on an Ireland card with Ian Gary and Conor McGregor. That's all I can say. But yeah. I'll be riding with Rise McKee for this one in the welterweight division. Moving in to our featured prelim bout in the bantamweight division as Taylor Lapoulouse takes on Kaolin Loran. On short notice, Kaolin is stepping in to who is Kaolin stepping in for? I forgot. I believe Taylor Lupus was supposed to fight, Khalid Taha. Then he was supposed to fight this guy named Muin Gufani, who was supposed to step in on short notice. He also fell out, so now he's stepping in. Kaolin is 8-0. Taylor is 18-3. Same height, 73 inches in reach to 68, though, so a notable 5 inches in reach for Taylor, who fights southpaw. Kaolin fights orthodox. Kaolin is a 27-year-old from Ireland also. He is currently, I was going to say on an 8-fight winning streak, but he's 8-0, so I guess he's on a winning streak. And I could not find how many KOs he had, sadly, so I don't know. Sheer Dog let me down. As for Taylor, I mean, I know for a fact that he's been in the UFC before. He had a stint from 2015 to 2016 where he went 3-1, lost one decision to this guy named Eric Perez, and then was cut. But he's left the promotion since then, picked up a bunch of wins, and he's back in Paris. This fight was originally on the main card, and for some reason they dropped it down. I don't know why, but guess that's how it goes. I'm very torn on this fight. Callan 8-0 from Ireland, super good, but Taylor is from French. I mean, Taylor double impact Lapalooza versus Callan the Don Lorraine. I love the Don as a nickname. Oh, I'm very torn right now, gentlemen. I'm very torn on who to pick. I'm happy that this is not an official fight. I hope this doesn't get bumped up to the main card, because I'm gonna go based off of reach, and because Taylor is a hometown France boy, I'm gonna go with Taylor Lapalooza. We'll go by decision, but I don't know. Callan looks pretty good. But I mean, okay, we're going to go with Taylor on this. We'll ride with Taylor Lapalooza. So our prelim picks, we'll just recount them. Jacqueline Cavalcanti over Zara Farn. We'll say by TKO. Fareed Basharat over Cledson Rodriguez. We'll go by decision. Nora Cornell over Jocelyn Edwards by TKO. We'll say Rise McKee submits Angelusa. And we're going to go Taylor Lapalooza over Callan Lorraine by decision. And those are your prelims. Some pretty decent prelims. We have 1, 2, I think 3 French fighters on the prelims, and in total we have like 9 on the main card. It's the whole card. I mean, it's very crazy. But anyways, moving into the main card, all of these picks are official as always. Main card picks are official. Prelims picks are unofficial. Let's start off the night with 2 debuting fighters in the featherweight division, as Morgan, the Last Pirate, Shari, takes on Manolo Angelo Veneziano Vicini. It's Manolo Zacchini. His nickname is Angelo Veneziano. I have no idea why. Morgan is 18-9-1. He is from, where's he from? He's from France. He's 27 years old. Currently on a 3-fight winning streak, 10 KOs and 3 submissions to his name. And he is same height as Manolo. 1 inch in reach, though. They're both orthodox fighters. Manolo Angelo Veneziano Zacchini. I do not understand that nickname. I'm going to need the broadcast team to really break that one down for me. He is from Italy on a 2-fight winning streak. 26 years old, 9 KOs and 1 submission to his name. He's only gone the distance once in his professional career. This is tough to say. I think I'm going to go with Morgan just because he's a French fighter and has more finishes. I don't know. I'm riding with the French fighter. That's all I'm going to say. We'll go Morgan, round 1 submission. I need to give a reason. I can't just say, because I think that. So Morgan does have a reach advantage by an inch. He is older. It's tough to say. It's tough to say, gentlemen. I do have to say, because he's from France, we'll give him the edge. But when it comes to down, who's actually better, we'll have to sell that in the octagon. Moving into another fight in the featherweight division, as William Jaguar Gomez takes on Giannis, the Desert Warrior Gamori. Ooh, that's a cool name. William Gomez was originally scheduled to fight Lucas Almeida. That fight fell through. Giannis Gamori and saved the day. William is 12-2. Giannis is 12-1. 6 foot for William. 5'9" for Giannis. 73-inch reach for William. 69-inch reach for Giannis. William fights southpaw. Giannis fights orthodox. William Gomez is 26 years old. Giannis is 28 years old. Gamori is also from France. We got 2 French fighters here. 12-1 with 3 KOs and 4 submissions to his name. He's currently on a 9-fight winning streak, and he was actually originally supposed to fight Callan Lorraine, who we mentioned on the prelims. But since William Gomez and Taylor Lapalooza's opponents both fell through, and since they're both training partners, they managed to split these 2 up so they would fight. Speaking of the man, William Gomez, he is 2-0 in the UFC, wins over Jarno Aarons last time they were in France, and earlier this year in April, he beat Francis Marshall by split decision. I'll be riding with William Gomez by decision in this one. I do think he has the edge in grappling from what I've seen from him. And as for Giannis, this was not the original opponent. He's also a bit shorter, less reach. So I will be going with William Gomez. The one good thing about this is that the French will have a winner out of this. Unless it's a draw. That would be hilarious. That would actually be pretty funny. Let's get into our top four. It's our top four fights of the evening. These are the four I'm most excited for, especially this one. I always love when we have a debuting fighter against a ranked opponent. So, Volkan Ozdemir will be taking on Bogdan Guskov in the light heavyweight division. Volkan is currently ranked number 9 in the light heavyweight division. He was supposed to take on number 12 Azamat Murzakanov. That fight fell through. Bogdan Guskov in to save the day. Volkan is 18-7 professionally. Bogdan is 14-2. 1 inch height reach for Bogdan, 6'3" to 6'2", and 1 inch in reach as well, 76 inches to 75, both orthodox fighters. Volkan is 33 at the moment, turns 34 on September 19th. Bogdan, 30 years old, on a 4-fight winning streak. All of those have been KOs. Out of his 14 wins, 12 knockouts, 2 subs, 100% finish rate. He was born in Uzbekistan. It said he fought out of Russia, but I do believe he credits Uzbekistan as his homeland. Bogdan Cesarovich Guskov is his nickname, against Volkan No Time Ozdemir. Volkan had an interesting UFC career. We'll recap it since we can. Debuted in February of 2017, beating Ovince St. Preux. He would knock out Misha Serkinov and Jibi Manua both in under a minute, getting an early title shot. He would get dominated by Daniel Cormier in 2018, submitted by Anthony Smith in 2018, drop a split decision to Dominic Reyes in 2019. He would bounce back with the finish you'll probably see on all of his highlight reels is his round 2 knockout of Ilir Latifi. Earned a performance bonus. That was in 2019. Earned a controversial decision over Alexander Rakic via split decision in 2019. He, of course, was the man who Jiri Prochazka knocked out cold at his debut. Dropped a decision to Magomed. Last year, he lost to Paul Craig. He beat Paul Craig, but yet to fight this year. He's currently coming off a loss to Nikita Krylov. That was a bad one last October. I'm going with Bogdan for this one, ladies and gentlemen. I think that Bogdan has an excellent knockout capabilities. I don't think Volkan's chin is what it used to be, if it ever was anything. And plus, Bogdan has the size to match. And I think when Volkan is met with someone his size, it's when they're bigger than him, I feel that he kind of struggles a bit. So we'll be going with Bogdan. And, I always want a new fighter to take over a spot. It's how I feel. And plus, if Bogdan wins, he'd be top 10, which would be very, very cool. So we'll go with Bogdan by round 2 knockout, because I think Volkan has durability in round number 1. Moving on to our number 3 fight our top 3 fights, I suppose. Not the co-main event, but the fight before it, as Benoit Saint Denis takes on Thiago Moises. This is going to be a good one, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching 2 future legends of the lightweight division. Benoit Saint Denis is 11-1 with 1 no contest. Thiago Moises 17-6. 5'11" Benoit, 5'9" Thiago, 73-inch reach for Benoit, and 70-inch reach for Thiago Moises. Benoit Saint Denis, 27 years old. Thiago Moises, 28 years old, I believe. Both born in 1995. We'll go with Benoit, God of War Saint Denis. Love his name. He has had 4 fights in the UFC. He actually debuted in October 2021 against Eliseu Zaleski dos Santos at UFC 267. His debut fight is the infamous one of the worst reffing performances of all time. The ref should have stopped it at multiple points. Benoit Saint Denis is still lucky to be alive with the amount of punishment he took, especially to his head. I'm so glad that the UFC chose to have him back. In 2022, he went 2-0 with 2 round 2 finishes, including a brutal one last time they were in Paris. He dropped Gabriel Miranda 3 times, took him down, dominated him before landing a 16-second round 2 knockout. He fought once this year in July, where he submitted the ever-dangerous Ismail Bonfim in round number 1. Benoit Saint Denis is a killer. He is super talented, and with a win here, he could easily be fighting a ranked opponent. But I'll tell you someone else who could be fighting a ranked opponent with a win. That is his opponent, Thiago Moises, who's been in the UFC since 2018. He won in the Contender Series on Season 1. Had the unfortunate debut against Beneil Dariush, who had actually beat Kurt Holloway for his first UFC win in 2019. Kurt Hallball recently won the lightweight division of The Ultimate Fighter. Fun fact. He would then lose to Demiris Magloff before going on a 3-fight win streak, including wins over Michael Johnson, Bobby Green, and Alexander Hernandez, before losing to Islam Makhachev in a fight night main event. Made it to round 4, though, showed some great experience before getting submitted, and then later that year would get brutally TKO'd in round 1 by Joel Alvarez. He would take a lot of time off, came back in 2022 to a round 1 rear naked choke of Christos Giagos, and earlier this year he submitted Melquizal Costa by rear naked chokehold in round number 2. These are both two very dangerous fighters. I do think that Benoit Saint-Denis can match Thiago on the ground. I do think Moises has better jiu-jitsu of sorts, but I think Benoit has better striking and better grappling, so I'm actually going to give the edge to Benoit Saint-Denis. I'm going to go by round 2 TKO. I don't know if he'll drop him with a punch and follow-up or if he'll be on the ground grappling and TKO him with some ground and pound. But I do have faith in Benoit Saint-Denis. He is the French fighter. Thiago is from Brazil. And man, I'm really excited for this one. I'm watching two very good fighters who could potentially fight in the top 15. And honestly, if either of these guys win, I'm looking at someone like Jalen Turner for a next opponent. Someone like Diego Ferreira, Matt Frivola, anyone in the bottom 15 of the lightweight rankings. I could easily see these two guys taking on and winning. Very excited for that fight, but let's get into our co-main event. It's a fun one, and this is a women's fight, which I rarely say is a fun one. Don't cancel me, feminists. Women's flyweight matchup between Manon Fiorot and Rose Namajunas. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we got a good one here. Moving to the rankings, Rose Namajunas is the number 4 woman in the pound for pound rankings. Manon is number 10 in the women's pound for pound rankings. In the women's strawweight division, Rose is ranked number 2. In the women's flyweight rankings, where this fight takes place, Manon Fiorot is ranked number 3. That's right, Rose is moving up after her abysmal performance against Carla Esparza. It was just embarrassing, one of the worst fights in UFC history. She's taken over a year off. She has taken quite some time off to perfect her craft of sorts, bulk up, and she'll be taking on the French fighter that is Manon Fiorot. Manon 10-1 professionally, nickname is the Beast. She is how old is Manon? I believe she's 33. 5-0 in the UFC, 2 finishes to her name, coming off a big win over Caitlin Chookagian last October. She unfortunately did not fight on the last Paris card. I think her fight fell through, so I'm happy to see her back in action. Matchup preview. Manon's got 2 inches in height. They have the same reach, same orthodox style. But Rose, man, a legend of the game. Been fighting in the UFC since 2014. Lost to Carla Esparza, would pick up 3 straight victories, earning a performance bonus over Paige Van Zandt. Fight of the night lost to Karolina Kowalski. Would end up upsetting Joanna Jędrzejczyk for the UFC Strawweight Championship in 2017, defending it against her. She would lose to Jessica Andrade by getting slam finished. She would then win the belt back against Zhang Weili in 2021 with a nasty head kick, defend the belt against Zhang Weili, and last May of 2022, that is, lost it to Carla Esparza. But yeah, I'm going to go with Manon Fiorot by a unanimous decision. I think she's in France. She's got the momentum. I think Rose is taking a long time off. She's moving up in weight. I think Manon is more comfortable at that weight. She was able to fend off Caitlin Chookagian. She's been able to fend off Jennifer Maia. She actually holds a win over Mayra Bueno Silva. That's right, the woman who beat Holly Holmes earlier this year. And I just think Manon Fiorot it's either going to be her or Erin Blanchfield next in line for the Women's Flyweight Championship. So that's my pick, Manon Fiorot by unanimous decision. Not even split, unanimous decision. And with this win, I think she can call for a title shot. But I mean, looking at how Erin Blanchfield performed against Talia Santos, she's going to have to up that performance if she wants a title shot. So she's going to need to finish or just outright dominate Rose Namajunas. Because that Erin Blanchfield-Talia Santos match was very close last weekend. So we'll see how that goes. But let's get into our main event. Why we're all watching. We always watch for the main event. We always do. We're in the heavyweight division, ladies and gentlemen, as number 2 ranked Cyril Gane takes on number 7 ranked Sergey Spivak. man, oh man, this is going to be a good one. Cyril is 11-2 professionally. Sergey is 16-3. These guys rarely lose, and when they do, it's the top competitors. 6'4" for Cyril Gane, 6'3" for Sergey, 81-inch reach for Cyril, 78 for Sergey. So an inch in height, 3 inches in reach, both orthodox styles. Cyril is 33, Sergey is 28. This should be very, very good. And this is a clash of styles. Sergey's an outright grappler. Cyril is your classical kickboxer striker. Sergey debuted in the UFC in 2019. Sort of had the Pavlovich treatment of getting finished by someone at the time who was very good but now isn't. And that he lost to Walt Harris. I'm saying that because Sergey Pavlovich, who is the number 1 ranked heavyweight at the moment, lost to Alistair Overeem actually in 2019. How about that? He would then beat Tai Tuivasa in 2019 by arm triangle, drop a decision to Marcin Tybura in 2020. Since then, he's gone 6-1. His only loss is a short notice fight against Tom Aspinall. Other than that, he's finished 4 of his last 6 wins. He's currently on a 3-fight win streak, all finishes. Finished Greg Hardy by a TKO in round 1. Finished Augusto Sakai by TKO in round 2. And picked up his biggest win of his career earlier this year in a fight night where he submitted Derek Lewis in 3 minutes with an arm triangle, earning himself a performance bonus. He landed 6 takedowns in 3 minutes. That is, he averaged 2 takedowns per minute for how long his fight lasted. That's crazy. We're going to get to why it's notable, though, in a second. Cyril Gane, the legend, the French fighter. He is the hometown favorite. He was undefeated, 10-0, before he ran into Francis Ngannou in 2022, would lose a unanimous decision after winning the first 2 rounds. But he would bounce back with a legendary performance against Tai Tuivasa last time they were in Paris. He was the main event, earning a round 3 knockout. It was a fight of the night. I had to give him a performance bonus. That fight was nuts. Earlier this year, though, he did get brutally finished by John Jones in 2 minutes. One of the worst championship performances I've ever seen. But now he's back. He said he's been working on his grappling. He's committed, and he's here to take over. The one notable thing I want to point out is that in his losses to Francis Ngannou and John Jones, he was out-grappled. But for Sergey Spivak, he's very bad at control. If you will notice something, is that in his last 2 fights, actually, let's use his last 3 fights. In his last 3 fights, he has landed 15 takedowns. He has landed 15 takedowns his last 3 fights. Now, his last 3 fights, total fight time, is like 13 minutes. So he's landed 15 takedowns in 13 minutes against 3 opponents. That's not good. There is no control time there. The only control time you're going to see is just from him relentlessly hugging the back. And I will say that when Cyril Gane lost to John Jones, there was a lot of factors there. I don't think he trained well for that fight. I think John Jones is actually that good. So, I mean, that was part of it. For the Francis Ngannou one, I don't think Cyril Gane anticipated grappling at all. So we'll see how he does. If he can fend off Sergey Spivak in round 1, I think he'll have him tired. And by round 2, I think he can knock him out with maybe a head kick. I'm going with a head kick knockout just to spice it up. Round 2 knockout from Cyril Gane by any means necessary. I do think the hometown man could get done. I just think even if this was at the Apex, I'd honestly favor Spivak. But we're in Paris. Cyril has not had to travel anywhere. He's been in his home country. As for Spivak, I mean, he hasn't fought since February. Cyril last fought in March. Cyril also fought John Jones, and he fought Derek Lewis. I don't know. It's going to be very competitive, but I do favor Cyril Bangamai Gane. His nickname is Bangamai. Bangamni, I think it is. So let's recap our main card predictions. We're going with Morgan Shari over Manolo Zaccini by round 1 submission. William Gomez over Yanis Gamori by decision. Bogdan Guskov over Volkan Ozdemir by round 2 knockout. Benoit Saint Denis over Thiago Moises by round 2 TKO. Co-main event, we're going with Manon Fiorot over Rose Namajunas by unanimous decision. And in the main event, Cyril Gane over Sergey Spivak by round 2 knockout. Should be super good. I'm rocking with a majority of French fighters, actually. Let me double check. I predicted of the 9 French fighters on the card, I predicted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I predicted 7 of them to win. One of them opens the card is Zara Fayern, and the other one, Manolo. Is it Manolo or It's someone. I think it's Manolo Zucchini. No, it's not. I don't know who it is, but it's Gamori. Gamori. So there's 2 French fighters fighting. So yeah, everything checks out. Should be a very exciting card. I will reiterate. It goes down at 11:30 Central Time for Minnesota on Saturday, 11:30 a.m. 2 p.m. main card. 11:30 prelims, 2 o'clock Central main card. Very excited for that, and I had fun on this podcast, guys. Not as long as the other ones, just over an hour, which I guess is pretty long. You can follow me on any socials. Follow me on Verdict, guys. Get on Verdict. I encourage you to use it. It's my username ZR2002. You can rank fights, predict all your fights on. For UFC, they even do PFL. They do Dana White's Contender Series. Sometimes they do fun events like that. But yeah, this was a super fun podcast. I very much enjoyed it. I very much did. We ranked Phase 2 of the MCU, which I enjoyed. Recapped Dana White's Contender Series. Talked about some new UFC news, the rankings, and of course, our ever favorite pre-fight analysis, pre-event analysis. Almost as fun as the post-fight analysis. So I hope everyone will be watching. I'm going to be working on trying to grow this podcast, trying to grow my brand of just myself in general. And yeah, just thank you all for listening. I appreciate everyone who takes the time of their day to listen to me talk about things. Trust me, it does not go unappreciated, the views and downloads I get. So yes, thank you all very much. We'll be back maybe Monday or Sunday with another episode. Going to be doing some fantasy drafts, so we'll have to recap those. Going to be working on getting some special guests on. I still cannot figure out how to set up 2 mics into my USB ports on my computer. If someone can help me with that, I would greatly appreciate it. Follow me on Instagram, Zach Ruger. Follow the Surprise Job Podcast on Instagram. Follow me, ZR2002 on TikTok. Add me on Snapchat, Zach Ruger. You can find me anywhere. I will most likely communicate back because I love my fans, if I have any. Or just we can become friends. Who knows? I'm rambling. I'll see you guys next week. Have an amazing weekend.